In his operas, Richard Wagner fused fantasy based on larger-than-life stories and tradition with seamless scores, using landscapes and urban images to create spatial order on stage. He was considered a well-traveled musician for his time, and from his travels, he was filled with inspiration for various stagings. Of the 13 existing Wagner librettos, 4 of them have urban castle or palace settings, to include Die Feen, Das Liebesverbot, as well as Act 2 of Tannhauser. The Flying Dutchman is set in rustic landscapes and on the foredeck of a ship. Rienzi and Die Mastersinger are both urban in setting, and the remaining 6 operas depend on settings such as forests, vistas of rolling landscapes, or raging seas. These geographical specific settings make them seem more realistic for the audience. A specific history of Wagner's travels can be found in his own writings and diaries. These ideas do have biographical significance, as he often based the geographical emphasis of an opera on a real-life experience, which is what I will be going over today. Wagner epitomizes the Romantic era of opera, but he manipulates the physical world to create lifelike settings. His on-stage fusion of fantasy and myth with geographical reality reflects his imagination, with flashbacks to sceneries he observed firsthand on extensive hikes and travels. There is a unique connection between geography and fantasy within Wagner's operas. Wagner was an observant traveler. Mozart, Verdi, and Rossini also traveled extensively to present their operas in major cities in Europe. Wagner led a more harried economic and complicated artistic existence, mirrored in his extensive travels and his residences of varied length. As an adolescent, Wagner acquired an inclination for wandering in the region now known as the Bohemian Middle Mountains. On these hikes, he developed a landscape aesthetic that was to shape stage scenery in his later works. He made nature part of his art by fitting the geographical setting into his creations. The nautical settings of the Flying Dutchman and the settings for Tannhauser reflect his travel experiences most vividly and directly. First, I will show you a clip from scene 1 from the Flying Dutchman. Bear with me while I get this set up. I know it's not very loud. Let's see if I can get rid of the glare. I'm also going to skip forward to another part of the scene where you can see the ship a little bit clearer. You can also see the ship in the background there. Okay. This scene portrayed a safe cove. The force of the sea contrasts with that of the geological formations, which was befitting the gloomy mood of the music. Wagner had a real-life experience which inspired the setting for this opera. After boarding a boat with his first wife, Minna, many problems with the sea caused the ship captain to eventually steer the vessel into a Norwegian ford for safety, where they had to stay for 2 days. Obviously, this traumatic experience influenced his writing process as well. Similarly, an 1842 Paris to Dresden carriage trip of 5 days inspired Wagner to create stage settings for Tannhauser. And next I'm going to play Act 2 from Tannhauser, where Wagner used his knowledge of the Wartburg to create a beautiful hall setting. And let me get to that next. Here it is. I know it's not very loud, sorry. Okay, this might have been a little bit more modern version of what's normally portrayed, but it still has some pretty neat scenery in it. And now on to part 2.